I've been getting like a ton of comments of people saying like, oh, Assassin's Creed Origins is going to be better than The Witcher 3, like 100%, it's going to be better, it's because Assassin's Creed, it's amazing, it's got stealth and climbing and shit. I really don't think it is, and today I'm going to be kind of talking about why I don't think that Assassin's Creed Origins is going to be better than The Witcher 3. It can have a good go at it, like, it can come close, but I really don't think in terms of the quality of open world game that it's just going to be as good as The Witcher 3, and I just don't think it's going to be better. Obviously, I'd love for the game to surpass The Witcher 3, but given the pedestal I've put this game on, I really don't think that, in my opinion, Assassin's Creed Origins can knock it off that pedestal, just because it's set the bar so high for open world games, and I don't know if it can come down. I really don't know if Assassin's Creed Origins is going to be able to knock it off. And I know I compare The Witcher 3 and AC Origins all the time, but these comments I've been getting, they've triggered me pretty hard, you know. I hold The Witcher 3 very close to my heart. It's one of the best games I've ever played. And when people try and take that #1 spot, or, you know, it's #1 open world game spot away from it, it upsets me because I love that game. And, you know, even if it is Assassin's Creed that could possibly knock it off, or people have the trust in Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft to knock it off, I don't think it will. I really don't think it will. The Witcher 3 is something else, really, and it's going to take something other than Assassin's Creed to take the #1 spot for me. As I said, it can try, but I just don't think it will. Without further ado, guys, let's get straight into today's video. So basically, my main argument for this is, how can Assassin's Creed Origins be better than a game that it's trying to emulate and it's taking a bunch of inspiration off of? Because if there was no Witcher 3, then I really don't think that Ubisoft or Assassin's Creed or the people working on Assassin's Creed would have nearly as much inspiration as they do for this game. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because The Witcher 3 is a fucking amazing game, and I've actually made a video about this before, and how people say, oh, Assassin's Creed Origins is too similar to The Witcher 3, which I don't think is a valid point, because The Witcher 3 is one of the best open world games of our time. You know, Assassin's Creed is just adapting to the current climate of games and making the series better, because The Witcher 3 set the bar very high, and they're going to try and push that bar even further higher with Assassin's Creed Origins. But I've made a full video on this, I'll leave a link to it in the description. You could say this is a kind of follow-up video to that one, I guess, but it's more sparked because of the comment section. But anyway, without The Witcher 3, there wouldn't be nearly as much inspiration as they have for this game, because The Witcher 3 really changed what open world games were. It did such a unique and such a perfect take on open world games, and Assassin's Creed Origins is obviously trying to better the series and taking a huge leaf out of, you know, CD Projekt Red's book with the way they make their games, you know, like The Witcher 3, and obviously that's great, and you can tell from the quality of Assassin's Creed Origins that it's so much higher than previous Assassin's Creed games, and actually looks like a game that would come out in 2017 opposed to a game that would be released ages ago with a tired formula that doesn't work in the current age. Some arguments that people have for the reasons why AC Origins is better than The Witcher is because there's no stealth, there's no free running, but that's not what The Witcher ever was. It's more of a traditional fantasy RPG, and it doesn't need those features to be good. It has an in-depth open world with loads of different layers to it, like the underwater sections, like the ground sections, like the cave sections, the dungeons. It doesn't need climbing, it doesn't need verticality like that, because that's never what The Witcher was, and if they included that, that'd actually be worse for the game, in my opinion. It'd be so strange if CD Projekt Red just randomly added in a climbing system for no reason whatsoever, other than the fact that Assassin's Creed has it. It just wouldn't make any sense for the character, for the setting, because one, Geralt is not going to climb anything, and two, the setting has barely any buildings. A lot of the stuff in Velen is like wastelands, and then there's obviously Novigrad, but why the fuck would you want to climb around Novigrad? There's no point to it whatsoever. I think the no climbing argument just comes from people that haven't played the Witcher series and don't understand necessarily what it is. It's a very biased criticism for fans of the Assassin's Creed series, because not every game that's open world needs climbing. Like, it works very well in Assassin's Creed in games like Shadow of War and Horizon Zero Dawn to an extent, but in a game like The Witcher, it doesn't make sense given the setting and the characters that you play as in the game. But with Assassin's Creed, obviously climbing works. That's been one of the foundations of the series in terms of the gameplay that's been unique. You know, before Assassin's Creed 1, there wasn't an awful lot of gameplay was where you could climb around the, fully open world city, and it was really, really cool, and obviously it's something that's been in every single Assassin's Creed game since the first one. But with The Witcher, it hasn't been in every Witcher game since the first one, which is why it wouldn't make sense, and would actually make the game worse if it was in The Witcher 3 for no reason whatsoever. The same goes for stealth, really. Stealth wasn't in any of the other games, and it wouldn't have made sense to add it in randomly. Maybe in a future Witcher game, if they do ever release one, we'll see stealth because it will suit the character. But Geralt's character wasn't all about stealth whatsoever. He had Witcher mutations to, increase him physically for a reason. He's going to use them. He's not going to hide in the shadows and use stealth. He's a Witcher. He's, no bullshit. He's that sort of character. It doesn't suit his character to use stealth, and there was no need to add a stealth feature in The Witcher 3, simply because the game wasn't designed to have one in, The AI is completely different to what would be in Assassin's Creed. It has to be dumbed down incredibly in most games to be able to have a stealth system that's not infuriating to the player, and stealth system I just don't think would work very well in The Witcher. And the whole point of The Witcher really is having two swords, and going around slashing people up with it, and Geralt just wouldn't use stealth. He didn't seem like the type of person that would, bother with using stealth. He's more about hacking people to pieces and just taking out loads of people in all-out combat. A stealth system doesn't necessarily make a game better. I've played plenty of games that have no stealth system whatsoever and they're perfectly fine. Adding more gameplay features doesn't always do a world of good, and in The Witcher 3 I feel like adding a stealth system, one, would make no sense because of the character and because of the type of game that it is, but it also wouldn't do much for the gameplay overall. There's enough there already. You don't need a random stealth system added in that doesn't make sense. Another comment that I've been getting a lot is, oh, Assassin's Creed Origins is better than The Witcher 3 because it has more weapons, and I genuinely don't even think the game has more weapons. Fair enough, it has more archetypes of weapons, but in terms of the depth of weapons, the amount of weapons you can craft, the sheer amount of swords you can get in the game, I don't think there's more weapons in Assassin's Creed Origins. The same can be said for armor. Like, even the Witcher gear has more depth, more customization, and I think there's more variants of the Witcher gear than there is, like, armor pieces in Assassin's Creed Origins, because obviously you have the standard Witcher gear, then it goes up to improved, and then it goes all the way up to Grandmaster through like 5 different processes, and that's through like only one type of armor, which is the Witcher gear. Bear in mind there are loads of different type of armor sets that you can get in The Witcher 3 as well, whereas in Assassin's Creed Origins all you can have is like, I don't know, greaves, braces, and then the outfit you're wearing currently. The Witcher 3 has a lot more in-depth customization in terms of armor and weapons, simply because it is more of a traditional RPG. Now I know Assassin's Creed is going RPG, but it's not going as deep as The Witcher 3 is. Plus, you can't forget about all the various different enchantments you can put on armor and weapons in the game as well, and obviously that's not going to be present in Assassin's Creed Origins. You may be able to add fire to weapons in Origins, but that's about as far as it goes, whereas in The Witcher 3, there is a ton of customization you can do to each individual piece of armor and weaponry in the game, and that's a whole lot more in depth than just having a bunch of weapon archetypes with a load of weapons in it. Obviously, I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with weapons in Assassin's Creed Origins. It will no doubt be an in-depth system, but I don't think there'll be, the same number of, swords you can craft in the game, or, pieces of armor that you can craft as there is in The Witcher 3, as there's less types of armor you can get in the game. However, there are more archetypes of weapons, which does make it more interesting. I see the argument there. Just the sheer fact that there's more archetypes of weapons means there's possibility for, different play styles, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's more weapons. It just means there's more of a certain type of weapon. And fair enough, if you prefer various different archetypes of weapons opposed to hundreds of craftable swords and hundreds of enchantments and pieces of armor, then that's perfectly fine, because it does allow for various different playstyles in the game, and it allows you to personalize it more to yourself. However, having more archetypes of weapons doesn't inherently make a game better. It just gives the player a whole lot more choice, and that's where it comes down to an opinion. If you prefer having more choice in terms of the weapons you can get and not the modifications you put on them, that's perfectly fine, but I prefer being able to absolutely upgrade the shit out of my weapons, add loads of cool features to them, add loads of enchantments, and that's what The Witcher 3 allows, which I think is a better system personally. And we don't even know if Assassin's Creed Origins does have more weapons in The Witcher 3, we just simply know that it has 8 different archetypes of weapons, and we have no idea anything else further than that. What I'm trying to say is, a game having more weapons than another isn't a very good argument as to why it's better than the other game. It just means that there's more things you can kill people with, and at the end of the day, the overall experience isn't affected that much by the amount of weapons in the game. It's not an immediate decider, is what I'm saying. It definitely contributes to a game being better and having more choices, but other than that, that. I wouldn't say it's a prominent reason or a prominent argument as to why Assassin's Creed Origins could be better than The Witcher 3. Something that I've heard loads of people say as well is, oh, The Witcher 3 is repetitive, and like, are you playing the right game? Are you sure? Are you playing the right fucking game? Because no, I've played The Witcher 3 like, what, 3 or 4 times now, and every time I've played it in a different way. I've used, heavy armor and weapons, I've used light armor, I've done different decisions while playing through the game, different quests, and there's always something new to do in the game. And plus, even if you do plan on playing it at one time, I really don't see how it's a repetitive game. It has 3 huge open worlds for you to play in, hundreds of quests, hundreds of characters for you to meet in the world, hundreds of weapons, loads of armor. How on earth have you found the game repetitive? It makes no sense. It's probably one of the most extensive open world games that's been released in the last 10 years. And I think the people that are calling it repetitive simply don't understand the experience of the game. It's not a game where you go around killing things endlessly. Obviously, combat is a huge part of the Witcher games. There's also quite a lot of emphasis on exploration as well, and character building and talking to NPCs in the game. It's like any other RPG. It's not really an action-adventure game. It is an RPG at its heart, so, you need to do the role playing, and you need to talk to characters and do other activities other than just killing people, like horse races, for example. That's one of the many things you can do in the game. And Assassin's Creed Origins is also adding in chariot races as well, which is something that's quite cool. But The Witcher 3 is more than just hacking away at loads of enemies like many other games are, and I feel like if you go around with that mentality that it's a fighting game, like a hack and slash game, then I really think you're playing the game incorrectly. I mean, obviously it's a very free game and you can go around killing everything if you want to, but personally I don't think that's how you get the best experience out of a game like The Witcher 3. Also, surely if you're calling The Witcher 3 repetitive, you're also calling Assassin's Creed Origins repetitive, simply because it's trying to do what The Witcher 3 did: push exploration, push character building, NPCs. It's trying to push all those things, and if you can't recognize that those things are important aspects in The Witcher 3, then you're also not going to be able to recognize them as important aspects in Assassin's Creed Origins, which means you'll think that game's, repetitive as well, because they're both going after the same thing. They're both trying to be a good role-playing game. That's what RPGs are, which means they're a whole lot deeper than killing a bunch of enemies, even though combat is a heavy part of the game. It's one of the main features of the game, but there are also other aspects that make it what it is, which is a role-playing game. I just don't get how people who are mainly fans of Assassin's Creed, which is one of the most repetitive series ever, and don't get me wrong, I'm still a huge fan of the series, I still love it, and that's why I'm really excited for Assassin's Creed Origins, and I've stood by the series and defended it over these years, but I don't see how people that are fans of Assassin's Creed, the game that's been really repetitive over the last few years, and they've had this old tired formula, can say a game like The Witcher 3 is repetitive, and that's the reason why AC Origins is going to be better than it, because The Witcher 3 is, the first time I played it, it was insanity. I was like, what the fuck, this game exists, this is a game that exists, it's a huge game, so many possibilities of things that I can do, and I fell in love with it. It took a few hours of getting into it. First of all, I didn't actually like it when I first played it initially, but after a few hours I completely fell in love with the game, and it is definitely one of my favourite games of all time. And I feel like the people that think the game's repetitive simply haven't given the game enough time, so I recommend you guys go back and play the game a bit more, and you'll hold it in such a high regard like I do. But yeah, I really don't think The Witcher 3 is repetitive at all, and considering Assassin's Creed Origins is trying to do what The Witcher 3 did so well, and you guys are saying that Assassin's Creed Origins isn't repetitive, then surely The Witcher 3 isn't repetitive. You consider they're the same concept of game. They both have hundreds of quests, loads of stuff to do, and those games simply cannot be repetitive unless you play them all the time and keep replaying the game over and over again from the beginning. But yeah, if you think The Witcher 3 is repetitive, just please go back and play the game. That game really deserves your time, and it's very rewarding if you put a lot of time into it. Not hundreds and hundreds of hours, but just play the game and stick with it, and I guarantee that you'll end up liking it. Now, there's definitely a few other things I've seen, silly arguments that are like, oh, The Witcher 3 has bad graphics, and if, you look at this game, it clearly doesn't have bad graphics at all, and, oh, The Witcher 3's got no story, or a bad story, and I completely disagree with that. I don't think it's the best story in any game, but it certainly isn't bad whatsoever. It's good, and it definitely serves its purpose, but these two arguments are just too small to make segments in the video about. Like, it's just, I can't, graphics, who the fuck cares? This game came out 2 years ago, still looked absolutely beautiful, so I don't see what the problem is there. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of make a video talking about the reasons why I think Assassin's Creed Origins isn't going to be better than The Witcher 3. That's not to say I don't want it to be better than The Witcher 3, because obviously I'd love for Assassin's Creed to be considered a better game than The Witcher 3. That would be fucking insane. And if it does turn out to be better, you know, then fucking great, that's amazing. But I just don't think it will. Given Ubisoft's, you know, track record of games they've released, obviously Ashraf and his team are doing great, and Ashraf has passion for the game, and I can definitely see. But usually Ubisoft get involved, and they hinder the creative freedom of the people that are making the game itself, and they change things for worse, which is very, very annoying, because, you know, Ubisoft sometimes have some really, really shit decisions. Anyway, I really hope Assassin's Creed Origins is better than The Witcher 3, however, I don't think it will. If you think it'll be better, obviously you're entitled to your own opinions. Don't get offended in the comment section being like, oh, he's a fucking idiot, has no idea what he's talking about, because I prefer my comment section not to be full of toxic shit and people screaming about how Assassin's Creed is the best game series of all time. You know, that's your opinion. Don't get angry about it, you know, just voice it politely in the comment section below, please, because I've made videos like this before and people have gotten really fucking mad. I just prefer to keep that toxicity out of my comment section. I just don't need it, you know, I just don't need it whatsoever. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe for more gaming news and content and reviews in the future, and also to comment down in the comment section below telling me what you think of this video and what your opinions are on this matter. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.